Good evening, Black people and all allies fighting for Black liberation, Black prosperity, and Black joy. I'm Nayyera Haq in for Charles Blow. Welcome to Prime. Tonight, we start with racism and the money people make off continuing to denigrate and defame Black people. Before Joe Rogan, before Tucker Carlson, before the entire right-wing outrage media was the machine it is today, there was one person who started it all. This guy, radio host Rush Limbaugh. Today, the right wing is mourning the one-year anniversary of his death. Here is a short list of the racism he used to build a multi-million-dollar, multi-million follower platform. In 2004, after a brawl broke out at an NBA game, he said, quote, "I think it's time to get rid of this whole National Basketball Association, call it the TBA, the Thug Basketball Association, and stop calling them teams, call them gangs." In 2013, while discussing history, he said, "If any race of people should not have guilt about slavery, it's Caucasians." Limbaugh left his mark on America's pastime, too. He had a short stint on ESPN's Sunday NFL Countdown show, made a racist comment suggesting that Eagles quarterback Donovan McNabb was overrated because he was Black. Here's the comment that got Rush Limbaugh ousted. Quote, "The media has been very desirous that a Black quarterback do well. There is a little hope invested in McNabb, and he got a lot of credit for the performance of this team that he didn't deserve." Limbaugh ended up being too risky for ESPN, lasting less than a month, but he ended up creating something with his radio show and molded conservatives and Republican commentary in his image. Simply put, he created the space where open racism could help people make money. This week, a former NFL sideline reporter, Michelle Tafoya, followed in Limbaugh's footsteps, leaving the most watched broadcast platform in America, Sunday Night Football, so she could give back to America in her own way. She built an entire career talking to thousands of Black football players along the way, and she chose to leave that and within 24 hours go on right-wing media to trash critical race theory and Colin Kaepernick. On the Megyn Kelly show, Tafoya said if he really wanted to be a starting NFL quarterback, he'd be one right now, given he had the talent. Tafoya is a stand-in right now for the new right-wing darling, the 55% of white women who voted for Trump last election, the suburban moms who are marching on school boards across America, and Republicans will use them and her to capitalize on racism. And when it comes to the NFL, its history of systemic racism is being exposed. The league was just forced to stop using the practice of race norming, making it harder for retired Black NFL players to qualify for compensation as opposed to the white players. And now the NFL, which couldn't seem to find any Black coaches to hire in these positions, just hired the nation's first Black female Attorney General, Loretta Lynch, to defend itself against Brian Flores' racial discrimination lawsuit. The thread that weaves all of this together, it's not just sports in the NFL. It's the supercharged jet fuel of Limbaugh's white victimhood injected into Nixon's Southern strategy that propelled an onslaught of misinformation and cruelty upon America. That dangerous butterfly effect started the hurricane of Fox News, leading to the birth of Trumpism and a country that has not been this divided since the Civil War. Joining me now to discuss all of this is the former executive director of the National Council of Negro Women and the founder of Max Black Media, Dr. Avis Jones-DeWeever, and the founder of Press Run Media and author Eric Boehlert. Dr. Avis, let's start with you. The NFL's decision to use the firm that also employs the Black female Attorney General Loretta Lynch to defend them. What does it mean for her to accept this job in this moment?
You know, it means that she is going to do what her firm has her there to do. And it's not surprising that this was the choice of the NFL. It is not uncommon that in situations like this, they will want to have a Black face defending them in court. It is very disappointing, I will say, though, that here she is, gone down in history. I remember when there were rows and rows of her Delta Sigma Theta sorority sisters sitting there in Congress supporting her as she was going through the process of being confirmed as the first Black woman Attorney General. To have that historic moment and to have Black women across this nation rally around her to help her be confirmed in that way, to now turn around and be the person who is defending the NFL, which we all know has just a horrible history with regards to what it has done and continues to do on issues of race, particularly in decision-making spaces, is really a horrible turn for her. And I believe it's something that she should not be proud of at all.
Granted, she was at this law firm for quite some time. The law firm itself has worked with the NFL, but there is something to be said for the moment and what you choose to stand up for, what you choose to sit down for. Eric, it used to be, right, that we talk about in our justice system, in our culture, that everybody deserves and is entitled to the best defense. But given that we're dealing with this type of inequality, is that still the case when it comes to the culture wars?
Well, you talked a lot about Rush Limbaugh, and he was the father of this culture war. He was the country club demagogue who turned normalizing racism into big business, as you said. Last time I was on the show, we were talking about Joe Rogan, and he's making $100 million at Spotify, and the viral clip of the N-word had just come out. New York Times is reporting today, Joe Rogan's actually getting paid $200 million by Spotify. Which explains why they refuse to hold him accountable to their own content guideline, whether it's COVID misinformation or blatant racism and things like that. But yeah, in terms of the culture wars, Limbaugh was a key part. He made it big business, and he made it okay. The fact that ESPN ever thought Rush Limbaugh should be on a Sunday, NFL talk show was insane. I mean, he had a long track record of homophobia, racism. You name the degradation, he was pushing it. But frankly, the mainstream press gave him good coverage for years because he was popular. And the press likes to boost conservative commentators. So it was a year ago that he passed away, and look where we are now. Things have only gotten worse in terms of Fox News. Things have only gotten worse in terms of mainstreaming racism, and now, as you pointed out, with this NFL sideline reporter quitting her job so she can turn around and get in the race baiting business after her entire career was literally on the shoulders of NFL players. It really does indicate that there is a space and a marketplace and money to be made from just straight out normalizing racism in the culture wars today.
Well, and that's the part of what she's doing, right? She as you mentioned, it's not just on the shoulders of Black players. It's literally, she made her money and her name off of Black bodies and the labor of Black bodies. Dr. Avis, when you see, right, a white woman representing that 55% of suburban voters that Republicans want to get, and you hear her then talking about Colin Kaepernick, about critical race theory, and given a platform to do so, again, is that something that deserves equal time and equal protection in public discourse?
Well, of course, we do have freedom of speech in this country, but I will say this, it definitely shows who she is and the fact that there is a market there for that. It's not, a minimum wage job that she left, okay? So she made a business decision, if you ask me, because we all are acknowledging here that this is big money now. Hate is big money. There is lots to be made off of this. And she went right in and hit those specific notes that she knows is hot right now, that will definitely elevate her voice in that space. All these people talking about critical race theory would not know it if a book hit them upside the head, okay? They're just using that as a name, a label that they put on anything that deals with race and truth and history in this nation. Definitely sort of tagging Colin Kaepernick and specifically degrading him, doing that from her position previously in the NFL is specifically a way to say, I am now free to say what I want to say. It's really interesting. Bottom line is she's clearly been racist all along. Now she just has the opportunity and the platform to do so overtly.
Mm-hmm. That idea, right, that it says Trump gave permission. It's really, Rush Limbaugh started that and gave all these people permission to be racist out loud again. And Eric, but that, set aside the idea of a defense in a criminal proceeding, fine, that's legalese. Or even the idea of balance in the culture wars. Platforming, right? This is being given a platform, $200 million to Joe Rogan, right? This woman now all over conservative media, it makes money. So what is the solution to, is it deplatforming? Is it consumer activism?
Well, it's interesting she quit her job before she said these things because she knew she would have been deplatformed. I mean, there's no way a network television associated with NFL was ever going to employ her. So she knew that rule. But the point is, she left a very good job. She'll make more. I mean, she will be on Fox News. She could have her own, by the end of the month, she could have her own podcast, her own book, her own speaking gigs. We don't really understand how much money is floating around the right-wing infrastructure, the billionaires who are just flooding these people with money. They don't even know what to do with it all. They can't even create enough think tanks, enough phony, speaking engagements and cruises. I mean, the money is astounding. So she made a marketplace decision, and she will do really well. But in terms of deplatforming, look, we just had this debate about Joe Rogan. And some musicians came forward. I wish there had been more. They were very courageous. They put their reputation, they put some of their revenue on the line. But it's hard to do in terms of deplatforming when it becomes so normalized. And Joe Rogan, particularly, he had the support of way too many middle-aged white men who should have known better, and who a lot of them are in the media business, who defended him, saying, oh, this is free speech. Oh, let him talk. That's not what this is about. The good news is deplatforming worked for Trump. He's off Twitter. He's off Facebook. He releases these ridiculous press releases that no one can decipher. So we are making inroads, and it does work, to your point. It absolutely does work. But we're running up against this other force, which is it's lucrative.
Indeed, it's lucrative, and that's what it comes down to, right? It's making choices of how you're going to make your money and what you're willing to sacrifice to make that buck. Dr. Avis Jones-DeWeever, Eric Boehlert, thank you both for joining me tonight.